Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at the first division of this year's Arkansas Derby. Of course, a grade one, $500,000 is the purse. Let's take a look at this field. It kicks off a 50-cent pick four at Oaklawn Park on Saturday. This race features the brilliant Baffer trainee, Charlatan. He hasn't been headed in two starts. He's won both of those races very impressively. And Mike, he is simply the horse to beat.
Yeah, the horse to beat by quite a bit in this race, actually. He has been brilliant in his first two starts and running just super fast races as well.
Timeform US has a pace projector for this race. We're going to take a look at it now. You'll notice that the number 6, Shooter's Shoot, is expected to make the lead. Shooter's Shoot will scratch from this race. Jay Privman reported that earlier in the week. That just makes Charlatan's task a lot easier. Where Martin Garcia might have had to hustle him hard from the rail to make the lead, now it appears Charlatan can make the lead without much fuss. And last time out, we'll watch his race. His first start against Winners, his first start around 2 turns, and Charlatan got to an easy lead. There wasn't a lot of pace on, and he drew away as an odds-on shot should. He might get a similar situation here. He might have to go a little bit faster, but boy, he looked good.
Yeah, he's looked really good in both of his starts. You could have put up either replay, Dan. He looked the same both times, just never really being asked, doing it all on his own, and running fast races in the process. Listen, he's got to stretch out to 9 furlongs here. Maybe at some point, distance will catch up with this horse, but he is a brilliant 3-year-old. And I think it's not that hard to make the case that he might be the best 3-year-old out there right now.
And remember to head on over to timeformus.com after scratches are made official. That pace projector will update. You'll have Charlatan loose on the lead. You never know. It might even turn into a blue bar scenario. The number 2, something Mike always has wanted to hear from me, my friend's beer. I prefer my colleague. Third last time out in a 2-turn race at Oaklawn Park. There wasn't a lot of pace on for my friend's beer. I think that might have worked against him. The 4th horse came back to win with an 81 buyer in a $30,000 starter allowance. I believe that Jerry O'Dwyer does really good work, but this is a very tough spot for my friend's beer.
Agreed. I mean, he's progressively getting better for a really good trainer. It just feels like he's found himself in a really tough spot here.
And we'll take a look at his last race. Again, it was a race that just didn't have a lot of pace. He's going to come along to finish 3rd. It was his career best buyer speed figure of an 81. Now he has to stretch out to 1 mile and an 1/8. The number 3 in this race is Mimosa, going out for Michael Maker. Mimosa was beaten by Shooter's Shoot last time out, who scratched out of this division. There was a fast pace going on in that race. Mimosa lingered near the back of the pack, passed a couple of tired horses late. It was a step in the right direction, but I'm just not sure he's going to get that kind of setup here against better horses.
Yeah, the pace might not play to his favor. This is a tougher spot as well. If you're looking, just for a positive maybe about this horse, he did start out his career pretty good on synthetic. The Tampa Bay Derby obviously was bad, but he wouldn't be the first horse who hated that dirt track at Tampa. I actually felt like he ran okay last time, Dan. He was no threat in there, but he put in a pretty good finish at the end of that race. He galloped out very well afterwards. Going to be a huge price in this race.
A horse that's eligible to take a step forward, in my opinion, is the 4, Gouverneur Morris. This is a horse that's paired up by her tops in his 2 races this year. 3rd start of the form cycle for Todd Pletcher, who historically does well in these races at Oaklawn Park. I'm interested in your opinion on the Florida Derby. I thought he ran in spots. It looked like he was in a decent spot in between horses on the backstretch, and then all of a sudden at the half-mile pole, they got away from this horse, and Johnny V had to get all over him. And then at the end of the race, he was re-rallying a little bit. I'm not worried about the 1 mile and an 1/8 for him. I'm a little worried about his lack of focus.
Yeah, I can see that being the case too. He did lose a spot pretty early in that Florida Derby. After that, I guess he ran okay. I guess the real problem I have, Dan, is that the Florida Derby is not my favorite race, as good as I think Tiz the Law is. We'll see what he does. I'm still a fan of his. I think he's clearly the main danger to Charlatan in this race, but he does have to take a step forward.
Steve Asmussen sends out the 5, Jungle Runner for Calumet Farm. This is a big price chance. They put blinkers on last time out. Well, that experiment didn't last long. He did not run well in the Mind That Bird Derby. I guess you could say he was compromised by a lack of pace in both the Smarty Jones or the Springboard Mile. I like him at shorter distances than this.
I do too. I actually thought his Clever Trevor was pretty good when he became a stakes winner, winning that race, but he's just gotten dusted in 3 tougher races lately, and it just feels like he's going to get dusted again in here.
Big Scratch, the 6, Shooters Shoot. This is a horse that had won his last 2 races. He was expected to be the one, perhaps, to go after Charlatan in the early portion of this race. It just doesn't look like he's going to run. He's out. Charlatan makes the lead. We move to Wrecking Crew. Wrecking Crew sold for $875,000 as a 2-year-old in training. He was 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He has some credentials. The San Felipe, though, his first start off the layoff, Mike, that was just kind of a disappointing race, but he was in against 2 tough horses, and he could certainly move forward for Peter Miller.
Yeah, I guess he can. He was terrible last time, and obviously the first 2 finishers in there, the first 3 finishers, in fact, are all pretty good, but he just didn't do any running. And it's not like, he was making a ton of noise in the graded stakes races as a 2-year-old. Not that he ran terribly in all of those, but he just didn't seem like he was quite good enough to win races like that.
Which Anno Deor will show up on Saturday? The one that finished 2nd in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile at a huge price, the one that finished 2nd in the Los Alamitos Futurity is the favorite, or the one that bombed in the Risen Star, his 3-year-old debut at even money? You and I were both a little surprised that Blaine Wright, who's a fantastic trainer, put blinkers on Anno Deor off those 2 good efforts in the Los Al Futurity and the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Maybe he just didn't appreciate the blinkers. They're coming off in here. If he runs his race, I think he can factor.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, obviously, this is a horse who ran, 86 and 91 buyers in his 2 dirt starts as a 2-year-old. So if you can, if you think he's going to take a step forward in here, he's a horse that you definitely want to consider at what should be a fair price. I don't know what happened last time. Maybe it was the blinkers, but he ran terrible. He's got a rebound out of that. I won't be surprised if he does it then, but it's not like, I love his 2 dirt races as a 2-year-old.
If this was a usual first Saturday in May, you'd be looking for a Dallas Stewart-trained late runner at a big price to maybe pick up a piece in the Kentucky Derby. Well, there's a Dallas Stewart-trained horse at a big price, winning impression, coming off of a win at Oaklawn Park, albeit over sloppy going. Let's watch that performance. He came from off the pace. He won, and he got disqualified. It was a bit of a controversial disqualification, but this is a horse that just seems to be going the right way. And Dallas's horses are late developers that often get good this time of year.
Yeah, he really has been improving, especially since they stretched him out in distance. This was, to me, was a terrible DQ. I thought he ran really well in here. He's obviously in very tough in a race like this. I don't think he can beat this field, Dan. But I like the way he's headed. I think down the line, this horse could be okay.
Crypto Cash is the number 10 going out for Kenny McPeak. This horse won on turf 2 starts back, and not surprisingly, they tried the rush away on the Turfway Polytrack for his seasonal debut. Tough spot first race off the layoff. He ran a little bit late after not breaking well. This is a horse that has more tactical speed than shown. If he gets out of the gate, he might be able to work out a good trip. He's going to have to improve a little bit, and I have to admit, I'm a little concerned about the 1 1/8, even though there's some stamina on the bottom of this pedigree.
I'm concerned about distance too, but I liked this horse as a 2-year-old. I thought he actually really showed some talent as a 2-year-old, and I particularly liked the way they rode him because he did show speed. He's a very alert horse from the gate, but they do not put him on the lead. They rate him. I thought he ran well in his dirt debut. I really liked his maiden win at Ellis Park going a mile. I know he won on turf after that, but I like his dirt races a lot more than his turf race, and he stumbled very badly at the start last time. Put a line through that race.
Grade 1 winner Basin completes this field. He won a very weak edition of the Hopeful last summer at Saratoga, but I thought he did so in very professional style. Unfortunately, he was injured and missed the remainder of the year. You can argue he's rounding back into shape now. 3rd start of the bench for Steve Asmussen. He caught Nadal in the Rebel. Tough spot, first time off the layoff. First time 2 turns. Last time out in the Oaklawn Stakes, Mike, I thought he hated being down inside. If you remember in the Hopeful, he broke from an outside post. He had a nice clear trip, and that's what should happen here from post position 11. I think he'll break. He'll try to sit 2nd or 3rd, and if he's chasing Charlatan early, maybe that's a problem. I just didn't think he liked being down inside last time.
Yeah, I can see that too. And you know what, Dan? He also was very keen early in that race last time, and that pace was too fast for him to be racing like that. His rider really had to take a hold of him to try to get him to settle. It probably worked against him. I don't know how far he wants to go. I'd be willing to give him one more chance here. Third off the layup. I think he's run okay in his first 2 starts this year.
I do think you hit upon the big question mark, and that is the 1 1/8 for Basin, the hopeful win at 7 furlongs. Top pick time for the first division of this year's Arkansas Derby, and we hate to chalk out on you guys, but Charlatan just looks like he's the horse to catch and beat. With the scratch of Shooters Shoot, he's going to be tough on the lead.
Yeah, I can't see betting against him, Dan. He just looks too good to me. We'll see if the distance ultimately gets him beat. I'm going to try and get the 10 crypto cash in there at a big price to try and make some exactas and tries.
1, 10, 4, and 11 for Mike. 1, 8, 4, and 11 for me. I'm expecting Anno Deor to run a little bit better this time around. It's the first division of the Arkansas Derby. It kicks off a 50-cent pick 4 at Oaklawn on Saturday with an approximate post time of 5:29 Central. Good luck.